So today we're going to look at 4-term factoring by grouping. So step 1 says rearrange the terms if you need to, only if you need to. Most of the time they're just fine. So that the first pair and the second pair have common factors. Okay? And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to factor out that GCF, which we learned how to do the other day, from the first pair. And then the second pair, we're going to factor out another GCF so that that second pair matches the first pair. Okay, right now you're already confused because this is a lot of words. And then the third thing we're going to do is we're going to factor out the common binomials and group the terms that are left. So this is really not hard, and let's take a look at it. Do these two have something in common? Yes. Do these two have something in common? Is there a number that divides into these? Yes. Okay, so since the first pair and the second pair have something in common, we're fine. It's written in standard form, which makes it nice, and the first pair and the second pair have something in common. What is the GCF of this first pair? What could I divide out?
X squared.
X squared. And if I divided that x squared out of the first pair, what do I multiply x squared by to get x cubed?
X.
X. And what do I multiply x squared by to get negative 4x
Minus
squared?
4.
Minus 4. Okay, so that's what we took out of the first pair. Now, we want to take something out of the second pair so that it matches the first one. So if this says x minus 4, when we take something out, we want to be left with x minus 4. Well, what is the GCF of this?
3.
3. And if I divide it out to 3, am I left with x minus 4?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it?
We're so close to being done. Okay, so the last step is to factor out the common binomial. Okay, do you see that we have an x minus 4 here and an x minus 4 here? So I'm going to take that out and put it in front. And then I'm going to group what's left. I'm going to group what's left together. So here I have this is left and that is left when I factor the other out. So I'm going to group it together. X squared plus 3x. Does that make sense?
You said 3x.
Y'all did that with,
We didn't learn what we learned.
I learned that, but
We
I
learned
learned
that. That's what we learned. You got
y'all did this yesterday? And y'all were supposed to do this with last night's homework? What you showed me when I walked by? No, you did this and yesterday's homework?
We did like 3. We learned like 3 things yesterday. Like we learned what we learned, and then we learned that.
Okay.
So we did that first.
All right. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this one.
So that's all?
Yeah, that's it. This is my answer.
I did this back in New Jersey.
Oh, cool.
Kind of forgot over the years.
Well, look, you ought to remember quickly then. Okay, what do the first two have in common? An x squared. Okay? And when we factor that out, what are we left with? X minus 6. You're right. X minus 6. So in the second group, we want it to match. We want it to be x minus 6. So what do we have to divide out so that we're left with x minus 6? A positive 2. So now we're going to take out what they have in common. We're going to factor out what they have in common, x minus 6, and then we're going to group what's left. do one more together, and then I'm going to have you try one. We're actually going to skip to number 4. We're going to skip number 3. We're going to go on to number 4. Do both groups have something in common?
Yes.
Yes. What could I divide out of this first pair? A 2 and a x squared, right? So what do you multiply 2 by to get 6?
3.
3. And what do I multiply x squared by to get x cubed?
X.
X.
And that's it.
Okay? Now, what do I multiply 2 by to get negative 2?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. And what do I multiply x squared by to get x squared?
Nothing.
Nothing. So it's just the negative 1. So over here, we know we want it to match. So we want 3x minus 1 so that it can match. Well, what do I take out of this? So I'm left with 3x minus 1.
Plus 3.
3. Because 3 times 3 is 9. Okay? So now, we're going to take out what... Whoops, wrong color. We're going to take out what they have in common. And then we're going to group what's left. So we're going to take out the 3x minus 1. And we're going to group the 2x squared plus 3. Okay? Now I want you to try 5 and 6. You try 5 and 6. Okay, I'm going to walk around. If you have questions, stop me. Slide it back.
Thank you. Bigger than this. Just where the desk came from. Because one time the Woodrow store, she's changed her desk into those. A couple more desks. And the one pushed back. Pushed back a little bit more. 5.
How'd you get the signs for that?
Yeah.
You don't need to.
Because you can make
This will be the same as this. So all we do is find and combine those out. This is how this is and you do the top. You do
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this smells good. I'm pretty sure this one will always be the same. Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy to get them in teacher cities. Yeah. We have some of these too. No.
Oh, it does smell like that.
I don't know. See all the firecrackers? I got like more of them. What? You got more of them? Yeah, I got ran into them and I took them. I was like, oh, one I grabbed Oh, my legs are sore. No, I didn't work out enough. They need to hurt. That's when you know it's worked out. Pain is not weakness. Very good. You are not
I mean, all wear dangly earrings. I just bought them.
So whenever you get your first one, you automatically write down your swap.
I don't know how she reacts, so I wouldn't go in there and stop at her. What am I going to do about the project?
You should put up a fight.
Yeah. Better than this time?
Okay. Alright, guys. If we do go back and watch this on the video, please fast forward through our dead space. That would be boring to listen to. Alright, if we look at the first two, a 5 divides into them, and then an x squared. So 5 times what is 10? 5 times 2 is 10. Here I have an x squared, but I need an x cubed, so I need one more x. Alright, what do I multiply 5 by to get positive 5? Or positive 1. And this had an x squared, and this already had an x squared. So I'm done. Whenever we don't want anything to change, it's always positive 1. Okay, did everybody hear that? When you don't want something to change, it's always positive 1. Alright, now we want the second one to match, and it's really close already. But these are just different signs. So do you see if we pulled out a negative 1, that would make the signs change, wouldn't it? So, what we're going to do is we're going to pull out what they have in common. Well, that first one has that in common with the second one. So you pull that out in front. So 2x plus 1. And then you group what's left. We're going to group this with this. We're going to group what's left. 5x squared minus 1.
Okay, I don't get this.
Yes.
Is that a T or
I'll get there. It's probably S and T. Yeah. 5s squared, 15s
here?
6t squared.
Okay, 60, because it looks like.
Alright, if we look at the first two, they have an x cubed. Have an x cubed. So it leaves me x squared plus 1. So I want x squared plus 1. So what do I have to divide out or factor out? A negative 2. So when I pull what they have in common and group what's left, it gives me my answer. You pull out what they have in common, and then you group what's left. Okay, starting to get it? Okay. All right.
Oh, let me see. Okay.
All right. Let's skip to like number 9. We're gonna skip to number 9. And we're going to look at the first two. Do they have something in common? Yes. And we look at the last two. Do they have something in common? Yeah. What if it had been in this order? 3x minus 2y minus 6 plus xy. Do you see that this way, if they had put it in this order, do you see that these don't have anything in common?
Yeah.
So whenever they give it to us in an order where they have nothing in common, you just have to move stuff around. But this way they did give it to us where they have something in common. So we're good. We look at the first two. What do they have in common? A 3. Now this one has an x, but that one doesn't. So the 3 is the only thing they have in common. So what do I multiply 3 by to get 3? 1. And I need an x. So 1x. and I don't have to write the number 1. It's not wrong if you do. You just don't have to have it. All right, and then what do I multiply 3 by to get negative 6? Negative 2. Okay, so we want this one to match.
And then
What do these two have in common?
y.
A y. So we're going to pull out in front what they have in common, what's the same. We're going to pull that out in front. And then what was left, we're going to group together. We're going to group together what was left. So we could write this 3 plus y, or you could write it y plus 3.
Miss Williams.
Yes.
So when you're putting them in order, do they have to be like when we were doing? Do they have to be in order for the exponents? Like,
No. No.
so,
Once you get down here at the multiplying, whatever you want to put first is fine.
okay.
And you don't have to worry about standard form because it's multiplying. All right. Now, there are some more difficult ones down here. I don't really see a need to do those because they aren't going to help you as much on what we're doing next. The reason we look at 4-term grouping is so we can factor AX squares. So we're going to save some of these. We might do some for a warm-up tomorrow. So you can put this in that navy folder. We're done with this worksheet. And pull out your packet, your foldable. Pull out your foldable.
Miss Willie,
Yes,
what if you did all of them?
then you're ahead of the game.
Okay, so I don't have to do it. That's always more way. Hey, mine.
So we just write it down here when we get to
Okay. We're going to work on some of these now, which uses that skill we just learned. So this is the tab that says factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, the difference between what we did yesterday and what we're doing today is these have a number out in front. Yesterday it was just always start out x squared or y squared or n squared. There was no leading coefficient. There was no a part. Yesterday this was always an understood 1. But today we're going to do it where there are different numbers. Now, teachers call this different things. So I'm not even, well, I call it term splitting, but I'm not even really going to name it. But this is the process. And we're going to work on this for 2 days. So, it's not supposed to be easy to start with, but it's supposed to be easy to end with. Okay? What we do is we take this coefficient and we multiply it times this number. When I take 3 and I multiply it times negative 15, that gives me negative 45 y squared. Now, if you just rather write the negative 45, I'm okay with that. Okay, so what we have to ask ourselves is, what can we, this time, multiply to get that negative 45 that we can add to get a positive 4? If it helps you to do this little chart like this, 1 and, okay, positive 1 and negative 45. If I add those, I get negative 44. Negative 1 and positive 45 gives me positive 44. positive 5 and negative 9 gives me negative 4. And negative 5 times positive 9 gives me positive 4. Do any of these multiply to give me negative 45? Well, they all do. But add to give me positive 4.
Negative 5 times positive 9.
This one right here. So that is how I split it up. Negative 5 times positive 9. Now, we can't go straight to the answer like we did yesterday, because this coefficient right here keeps us from being able to do that. So what we do is we take this 4, and this is why I call it term splitting, because we're going to split it up. We're going to take 4 and split it up into negative 5 and positive 9. Does it split up that way? What is negative 5 plus positive 9? Is that the same as 4?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really change the value. I just changed how it looks. Now, do you see that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 term? And we do what we just did. What do the first two have in common?
A Y.
A y. And when I pull that out, I'm left with 3y minus 5. I want the second pair to match. So now I look at this pair. What do I divide out of 9y minus 15? So that it turns into 3y minus 5, a positive 3. So then I pull out what they have in common. And then I group what's left. Okay, let's do the next one. I'm going to change it to red so we can see it written up here. 2x squared times positive 3 is positive 6x squared. So we ask ourselves, what do we multiply to get positive 6 that we add to get negative 7? Multiply to get this number, add to get this number.
Since they're both negative.
Right. They have to both be negative because we're multiplying to get a positive. We're adding to get a negative.
So one would be
So what can I multiply to get 6? 1 and 6. And when I add those, I get 7. Negative 1 and negative 6. And when I add those, I get negative 7. I can really stop, can't I? Because I've already answered my question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because this one I'm multiplying to get a negative 6, and I'm adding to get a negative 7. Do you guys see that this does it? Multiplies to give me positive 6, adds to give me negative 7. So I'm going to take this term right here, and I'm going to split it. So I copy down the first one. I split this one into negative 1x and negative 6x. And then this just stays at the end. So this middle term gets split into the two that work. And then you go, what do these two have in common? X. And what does it leave me with?
2x minus 1.
Okay, good. What do these, well, I want this to match. I'm sorry. I want that to match. So what do I have to divide out?
Plus 3.
Okay, 3 works, but
Oh,
we
negative
want the
3.
signs to change. So it has to be a
Negative.
-3. Now we pull out what they have in common. And then we group what's left. That is all we're going to do today. Let me swing by and check to make sure you copied down these notes before you put them away. I already checked the other sheet while you didn't know I was doing it.
Twice. Well, you did it twice. I mean, I could have.